You cannot hear me, but now you can. See how that works? So we got a good show. We need to go over a lot of things that I didn't even anticipate to be going over today. I thought I didn't have a whole lot to go over as of yesterday. So share this out, and we are going to cover a lot of this stuff with a big focus, as I want to cover the big events in Dallas this weekend for Jake Lang and the protests that he put on and the shenanigans there. We got to go over and cover Enrique Tarrio's Lords of War podcast. So shout out to them. They did a little debate between Patrick Riley and Jake Lang, and Jake Lang really looked ridiculous. And I really don't understand how anybody can even support this individual, like, especially after this. So we're going to go over that. Share this out. Let me get my notes pulled up here. I lost them. And then we are going to hit the ground running here. So make sure we get everybody in here that we can. First, we ought to talk about who knew that Congress is still on a vacation this week. Anybody? I know some of you did because we talked about it. But Congress is still on a vacation when we could be getting so many other things done. How many of you know how many days Congress works in a year? Does anybody know how many days a year does Congress actually work? Anybody in the comments? Because I would like to see if you guys really know how many days they actually work. Plus 200 for Casey for having a monitor on the ceiling. Well, it's not necessarily on the ceiling. I have 4 big monitors stacked up right here. So that's what we got. But when it comes to Congress and how little they work, it's kind of pathetic that they get as much money as they do. They decide on how much money they're going to take from you. And they decide on how much they're going to work on your behalf or serve you. And Free nailed it on the head right there. They don't work, they steal. And that is 100% accurate. Big facts, man. Because politicians, they're not doing anything to serve you, serve the community, serve the country. They are serving themselves, taking the money, and also helping their friends. And it is pathetic that we have Congress still on a vacation today when we have all of these other things that we need to be putting in law and voting and making decisions on. And Congress is still disappearing, going away. I am starting, like, we really need to be pushing back on Congress and removing them and firing them all. Every single one of them. I know there's some we like, but we just need to get rid of them all. Am I the only one that sees the video glitching? Video as in going in the autofocus? Is that what you're talking about, Andy? I just noticed it was autofocusing. What do you mean glitching? Oh, I see it on my TV. Hang on. That's weird. Why is that happening? All right, well, not much I can do about it. Yeah, the autofocus, and then it randomly pauses. It's not skipping. No glitches on Kate's end. Weird. That's odd. Because it's happening on multiple platforms. That's really weird. All right, we're moving on anyways. Because there's nothing I can do to change that. All right, so yeah, we already talked about Congress. They're still on vacation. They're doing anything. Yeah, I see that, Free. So one of the things that I wanted to, the reason why I was bringing that up is because I shared these videos from Elizabeth Warren and what's his face, Dollar Tree Obama. And I want to share this with you guys and get your guys' 2 cents. I know I posted it for some of you to see on X, but let me see. No, we'll get to that, Kate, in a little bit. That's a little bit later in the show because that's going to be a good portion of the show. And it's not Jack, it's Jake. But we're going to start with Elizabeth Warren right here. And I don't understand these people. So how anybody believes any of the bullshit that comes out of their mouths or what they do, let's just go ahead and play this and then we'll talk about it. It's only 1:46.
You might be wondering, What exactly does the Department of Education do? Well, ever since Donald Trump fired 1 out of every 2 federal education workers, I've been seeing a lot of misinformation swirling around. So I'm here to debunk some of the myths.
Notice how she's reading. We're talking a minute 46 that is clipped out here. Why in the hell is she having to have a script to read from if she actually knows this information and believes it? What the hell is she doing? Because clearly you can look at her eyes right where it's paused. Like, I can't zoom in on the video. X won't let me. But her eyes are strictly looking at a script. I have no problem you having notes and stuff like that. And if you have to read from a script, it better be decent. It's got to be a good length. But we're talking about your freaking politicians that are supposed to represent you and do what's right for the country. And she can't even do a minute 46 off the cuff. Talking about these people need to be fired. Like, is this an age issue potentially? Like, half of Congress should already be retired and no longer be working anyways. So what the hell is going on here? Because she shouldn't be acting like this. And then we have Dollar Tree Obama doing the same thing. But let's finish hearing her out.
Myth number 1, this just means education will go back to the states. False. State and local governments already run our schools, and state and local communities are actually the ones who are now warning about the consequences.
She's lying us off, by the way. There's federal subsidies and a whole bunch of other things that give federal involvement in schools. Terry Batts in the comments, she is the one that will give you all of the schooling updates and tell you how all of this works and the corruption. But when it comes down to what she's talking about, she is clearly just reading from a script and has no idea what she's talking about. It was probably written by one of her staffers while doing some funny things in the Senate hearing room.
To our schools if Trump keeps gutting the education department. Why? Because the Department of Education has one key job. It helps level the playing field. So everybody has a place in our classrooms. Let me give you an example. Right now, the Department of Education helps pay for aides that support students with special needs. Every community has students with special needs, and if Trump cuts these programs, every community will suffer, and so will those kids. Myth number 2, gutting the Department of Education will save us money. False. The Department of Education has the smallest staff of the cabinet agencies, and it still does incredibly important work to lower your costs. This is the department in charge of the federal student loans, and it helps people get the money they need to be able to get an education. So let's set the record straight. Saving the Department of Education.
All right, we'll stop this. Look how much she's reading. She can't even do this whole skit. Just one, it's clipped to all hell. So you see a shitload of clips. She can't put together a minute in a speech and just put it together and put it out. She has a shit ton of clips because she can't put the whole thing together or even read from a script properly. She has to go through, have everything edited, all down to minute 46. She is a reason why politicians are useless. Well, an example of why politicians are useless. They're supposed to know what the hell they're talking about, but they can't even do a 1-minute video on social media about a topic that they supposedly know about without it being super edited, clipped, and all of the bullshit. Now, here's a younger one, Dollar Tree Obama. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say for 56 seconds.
Today, House Democrats will begin a week of action to highlight the high cost of living in the United States of America. America is too expensive. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Child care costs are too high. Insurance costs are too high. And utility costs are too high. America is too expensive. We need to build an affordable economy for you, for hardworking American taxpayers. Donald Trump and House Republicans promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. They have failed. Costs aren't going down.
Costs are going down. If you look, gas prices are going down. Besides here in my state, for some reason, Utah is always like ridiculously different than the rest of the nation. But oil prices are down. We're starting to see some other prices. Noticed over the weekend, last weekend at the grocery store, a lot more groceries are on sale than what I've seen previously. I don't know if that's part of it, but this guy, at least he can put this together without a million different clips, but he's still reading. These guys know what the hell they're talking about, and being able to represent you and represent the country, to be able to make the right decisions and vote on your behalf. They should be able to do a full minute skit without even reading from a script. I don't read from a script. I just have some notes on key points that I want to talk about so I don't miss them. These people that are supposed to know these things still can't do it without a script and having their staffer put it together for you. It's really ridiculous, guys.
Going up.
Look at this.
America is too expensive. Enough. We are better than this.
I do have to give it.
What's up, everybody?
I do have to give it to Dollar Tree Obama. He didn't read pause. Like when he paused in there, you know, like Ben would read pause when he was going over his teleprompter. At least he's smart enough to recognize, hey, you don't read this part. I give him that much credit, but he still is a useless politician that can't put together this entire clip and represent people. How does this connect with Americans? I would be super annoyed if this was my rep. If anybody that represented me, because I'd be like, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about, because you can't even put together the clip without a script, and you have a staffer probably typing it up for you, let alone you have all of these other awkward handlings in video. It's just pathetic, guys. I can't stand politicians as it is. I think they're absolutely ridiculous and they all need to go. And I keep coming across weird examples like this. And I'm sure I have some on the right too. So those people that are in here saying they're just liberals, they're liberals. I'm sure I can find some of people on the right doing it, because Mitt Romney did it all the time. Him and his famous hot dog video that he did on National Hot Dog Day, saying hot dog is his favorite meat. Freaking moron. But these are your politicians that are on vacation right now, while you're still going to work this week, Monday through Friday, possibly even Saturday. These guys are taking the day off because everything's good and going well in America. These guys needed to take their time off. I don't agree with them getting paid $174,000 salary and only working 140 days. I didn't see anybody in the comments on how many days they work. It's roughly 140-ish, because it all can vary based upon being called in special sessions, etc., or just called back to make decisions and vote. But overall, these guys do not deserve the money they are being paid. When we talk about how we're going to make this country better and how we're going to be able to cut the deficit and cut our spending, we need to start cutting the money that we're paying these people. They are not representing us, and they are paid way too much for what they're doing. Anyways, I'll get off of that soapbox. Let's jump on to the next one. So the next topic I have on the docket here is Kristi Noem was in Washington, D.C. I think this was all over the weekend. And she was robbed. Her purse was taken by a masked man at a restaurant. I normally wouldn't cover a topic like this. I wouldn't really give it any time of day, because someone just stole her purse. She probably left it, didn't really keep her eye on it or something. Someone ran off. But the part that I'm looking at in these scenarios, and this goes into a little bit in the next topic here, is they took the purse. They took the purse. Are they trying to get information very similarly to where they're trying to pin down Pete Hegseth and try to cause him to get fired, or call on him to get fired because of the way he's conducting business and communicating via Signal. Now, I'm not a big fan of using Signal for these things, but it is what it is. Like, if that's what they're going to use, I would prefer our government to have their own secure platform. But overall, I think that this was trying to get information from Kristi Noem, potentially a phone, to where they could get more information, just like what they're trying to do with Pete Hegseth. Things that were in her purse was like her passport, her driver's license, other things like keys. They did have an access badge in there, but none of that's of value to them. They really want House has been in session for 110 days and have worked 30. Exactly, Terry. Exactly. And if they work their whole part for the year, they'll barely get to 140 days. But the most that the thief got with taking Kristi Noem's purse was $3,000 in cash. I do find this a little odd. Do you guys find this weird that this Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, is walking around with $3,000 in cash in her purse? I do find this a little interesting that she's walking around with that much cash. Do you guys walk around with that much cash just daily? Because that still seems a little odd. If the average citizen was pulled over with $3,000 cash and they were searched, of course they'd be accused of selling drugs and all of that shit, because that's just the way our country runs right now. But I find it weird that she had $3,000 in cash. But to each their own. They can have that much in cash. It's just odd. Very odd. But as what I was saying, let's jump into the next one, because this is kind of leading into, is the Pete Hegseth story. So Pete Hegseth is under fire. Ed sees it a lot. All right. I don't. I don't carry that much cash. Not at all. I actually get uncomfortable carrying a lot of cash like that. If I had $3,000 in cash, it wouldn't be in my pocket. I would be too worried about losing it. I don't want it in the bank, but I also don't trust my clumsiness that I would just end up dropping it somehow, or a portion of it at least. But Pete Hegseth is under fire because NPR seems to be where it started. A few places came up with this information and sent it out, saying that the Trump administration is looking to replace Pete Hegseth. I only carry quarters and a few dimes. You would, Andy. You would. Because that's how you make it rain, is with quarters and dimes. Is that what you do? But NPR releasing this information, when I say it's iffy, it seems like this story came from NPR initially. But overall, there could have been another source, but it all came out at about the same time. But right now, the whole Trump administration and everybody is coming out and saying, no, they do not agree, that is not true. There is no truth to this. Is NPR and these other news sources, are they doing this just to create chaos in the administration, to where they can't really work, or they have to keep addressing these questions instead of the other things that are going on? Is that what's going on here? Because I don't really understand why this topic is so important that, they're trying to get Pete Hegseth fired, or is there some truth to it? I doubt there is any truth to this. And right here we have Caroline Levitt that addressed this earlier today, on if this was true. So we'll hear what she has to say real quick.
I have two questions, one on the Pentagon and another on the economy. You said on Fox News that the entire Pentagon is working against Secretary Hegseth, but the people who were fired were Hegseth's own guys. So how do you square that, and what do you say to concerns that that's bad management?
They were Pentagon employees who leaked against their boss to news agencies in this room, and it's been clear since day one from this administration that we are not going to tolerate individuals who leak to the mainstream media, particularly when it comes to sensitive information. And the Secretary of Defense is doing a tremendous job, and he is bringing monumental change to the Pentagon. And there's a lot of people in this city who reject monumental change, and I think, frankly, that's why we've seen a smear campaign against the Secretary of Defense since the moment that President Trump announced his nomination before the United States Senate. Let me reiterate, the President stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth in the change that he is bringing to the Pentagon, and the results that he's achieved thus far speak for themselves.
Very well put. I have to add, every time I hear her get onto the stage and at the podium, it is so nice to have a competent and normal human being our White House press secretary, because she can actually be intelligent and speak to things and not have to refer to her 975,000 page binder on telling her what she can and cannot say. This is very nice and refreshing to have. But when it comes down to this situation, I think Andy nailed it. Caroline Leavitt called it out. It's because of the smear campaigns they're trying to put him through, and she needed to back that up a little bit farther for a date of when it started, because it didn't just start when he got nominated. It started before the nomination and before the vote. Like, you had everybody pushing that he's an alcoholic and all of this stuff well before the vote for him to actually become I can't even speak right now. But before he was even able to get his position and being nominated for it. Well, voted in and confirmed, I mean. So when it comes down to it, it all has been going on for a very long time. This is no surprise. NPR doing it, like Andy said in the comments here, is because Trump wants to defund them. And I think we should. I threw out an idea earlier today because Tim Pool was at the White House today, because he is in the, can't remember what it was called, but the other media seat that he actually got to participate in and phrase the first question. Matter of fact, let's actually show that real quick, because I thought it was fantastic. Let me get over there to my page. I shared the video earlier. Bear with me right here. And then we'll show you guys. Tim Pool called out all of mainstream media right in front of them as the first question opening up to the press conference. Here it is.
Yes, many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland Man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you can comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome.
I love that. Their unprofessional behavior and to expand the access, because these people, the mainstream media, is pushing a narrative that the Maryland man he's just an American citizen being deported for a reason. That's the narrative they're trying to paint. Tim called it out in front of all of them that they're all lying to America, and Caroline Leavitt answers the question very well too.
Welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is
oh man, this video is horrible for her to hear her through here.
In comparison to the previous administrations.
Anyways, we won't play it since it's not that good for that through this. But she ends up going along the lines of saying they will voices and everybody, and this room has significantly changed since the administration has taken over, and I agree, it has, but I think it needs to change more. And so I put out a post, and I tagged even Caroline Leavitt in it, asking, how about let's switch it up one time and see how this goes. Let's switch it up and only have independent media in that room at the time of the White House press briefing. Only independent media, no mainstream media, none of them. We only want independence, and the mainstream media, to be able to get what's being talked about in this room, has to get that information from independent media and report on it, just like most of us have to do. We have to get it from other sources and then reverse engineer that, go through all of the data, figure out what they're saying is true, and then report on it accurately. I would love to see mainstream media figure that out, because there's no way that they would be able to do that without getting called out and them not being able to figure out how they're going to spin their narrative anymore. Because the first person to report the information was all independent media. We really should try that and see how that goes. So everybody on X, go and comment and tag Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary account, and let her know we should be doing that, because I would really like to see that. I'll fly out to Washington, D.C. I'll be there for it. That'd be awesome, because we really need to change this. When we're talking about mainstream media and these narratives and everything that is going on, it is really bad. We are not getting the truthful information, and the viewership and all of that on mainstream media is obvious. More people tune in, not to me, but to other people like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson. You have Jimmy Dore. You have many people that receive a whole lot more viewership than CNN or ABC. Some of these platforms, Fox News is not even up there compared to some of these independent media sources. And these guys get a whole lot more, should deserve a lot more credibility for what they do than mainstream media. And I would really like to see it. I would like to see us make that shift. Unfortunately, I'm asking for a lot, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but it'd be a really good idea. I think so, at least. All right, let's jump into not the last topic. The last topic is going to be Trump and his changes, what's coming. This is going to be the biggest topic, to talk about the Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf story. Not necessarily the story itself. That one's already been go over. Like, everybody knows what's going on. Karmelo Anthony saying it was self-defense. Austin Metcalf, unfortunately, has passed away. Well, he was murdered. But the situation that I'm waiting for is the actual evidence to justify self-defense. If you go and read the code, self-defense, there's a lot of holes in his story. So we really need more detail to prove self-defense. The stories that I've read about have ridiculous amount of holes, so that's why I don't talk about this a whole lot. Mostly what we're going to be talking about today is the protest that was held on Saturday in Dallas that Jake Lang was promoting, and he had his crew show up, a whole 6 people, and he was talking to no one. And he ended up calling out Austin Metcalf's dad, Jeff Metcalf, and calling him weak, because Jeff Metcalf did not want him to be pushing a narrative that is causing either a race war or a divide in everybody. He wants to keep things civil. What Jake Lang is pushing is, in my opinion, a very strong divide and pushing us into a conversation about race war. It's pathetic. The reason why I want to talk about this is not necessarily his protest, but yesterday he was on a podcast with Enrique Tarrio. He was, the leader is what they call him, of Proud Boys, because I don't think he is classified as the leader of Proud Boys. But he has a podcast that he had Jake Lang and Patrick Riley on. And Jake Lang really was ridiculous. Ridiculous. And Ed, you're not wrong, man. You are not wrong. Like, after seeing this is even more confirmation of it. Like, he was... One, Jake Lang is running for Senate in Florida. I don't know how this person thinks he's going to be representing anybody in America in the Senate behaving this way. It is absolutely insane. But let me go ahead and pull this up. Let me pull this up and let's go over this. Because the way he responded to some of these questions, because it was supposed to be a debate about the stuff that went on over the weekend, whether it was worth it, like, was it beneficial and stuff like that. And so those are the type of questions he was asked. But normally I wouldn't really deal with a whole lot or touch on this because people have the freedom of speech. They can say whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. But I made a commitment to you guys, everybody on X. I will do everything in my power to ensure Jake Lang does not get elected, because this behavior is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I have to air this. No one should be behaving like this when they are a politician. Let me get to a good spot here. We are going to jump to 757 to start. And shout out to the Lords of War podcast for this, and Enrique Tario and Ethan. There's a few other guys that are in here. I don't know their names. Sorry, guys. But they put all of this together, thankfully, just to make Jake. They didn't mean it like this, I don't think, but it made Jake look ridiculous. So I'll take it. And in the comments in this video, you can see it at the bottom there. But this is just, let's go. Let's go.
Don't with the white guilt, the white shame ends today, right now. Okay.
All right. So first question, looking back, do you think that the event of Saturday was a good idea? And if not, would you do anything different?
Well, the event of Saturday, regardless of the turnout or not, I think literally garnished hundreds of millions of views. And the views are one thing. I mean, we're not, just clout chasing, God forbid, or anything close to that. But it sparked discussions that are now going to actually reframe the question of, do white people have a duty or even a right to stand up and to demand that black people stop killing them wholesale? That's the number one trending topic right now on X, all over, newspaper articles, TV shows, everything. And so it was a ridiculous success. I don't think it could have been any more successful. Would we have done anything different? I would have been, I wish, and I pray to God, I wish I would have had some of the members of the football team of Austin Metcalf who are, willing to stand up. I wish we had a little more time to prepare to get some of the people who are part of Austin Metcalf's football team, his best friends, who are mourning and are suffering because of black violence on white Americans. I wish we had them there, because it would have been really great to have some personal stories from Austin Metcalf's.
So he wanted more people there, because after he did this, like, you should have saw all the shit he was talking before the protest. He was talking all this shit that he was going to have all of these people, and it was this big thing. Turned out to be like 6 people showed up. He had more people on security for his protest, for security to keeping everybody in line, than the people that actually showed up for the protest. He didn't have any success. Not to mention, this special individual is showing up to this podcast with no shirt on, his whiteness. Like, come on, dude. Just put a shirt on, have some professionalism, and just do a podcast. Why do you have to do this? We're going to touch on this in a little bit later. He comes out and says, "Oh, I'm not grandstanding." Like, you doing shit like this is exactly why you should not be representing America. You have no class whatsoever. And we're going to get into it. Like, he's kind of keeping his composure right now, but wait until Patrick gets him a little bit riled up here, because Patrick calls him out on his BS.
Friends and his family obviously is.
Not to mention, hang on, that buzzer just reminded me. That buzzer is 60 seconds. They're supposed to only give 60-second responses. Notice how long he went. Buzzer just hit. He's still going.
All just drenched with white guilt and, is paralyzed, and they're not even saying anything even close to what needs to be addressed. But I'm sure some of those football team members are probably very upset that they just lost another to black violence.
All right. Patty, so I ask you the same question. Obviously, you didn't put together the event, but do you think this event was a good idea? And if you do or you don't, why?
And I'm going to apologize right now. Patty does swear, and so he's going to throw out some words in here. I'm going to do my best. I think I got the ones that I'm not going to actually show, because I'm not showing the whole show. If you want to see it, I'll go and link it in the comments, so anybody can click back and go and watch the whole 53 minutes. But he has some great responses. So I'm just giving you some warning. He does swear quite a bit in here.
Well, yeah, I think it was an excellent idea because I like to know who the boneheads in the crowd are, right? So this guy showed his ass. We understand what the deal is. You standing on a bus in front of about 15 people, standing next to the biggest Uncle Tom in America, right? And Philip Anderson. By the way, the guy who ate Philip Anderson is a real dick. I used to know him. I don't recognize this dude anymore. But standing next to him on a bus in front of 15 people, the crowd was so sparse, a fucking tumbleweed actually hit Phil in the head. It blew straight past him. You had more people got caught masturbating in the Boston subway in the last 2 days than actually showed up at your fucking political rally. But you're going to talk about clout on the internet. You showed your ass, man, and I don't need the whole 60 seconds because that ought to do it.
Big facts. Well done.
All right,
Patty.
So Jake, rebuttal.
Well, I mean, so white fear and the fear mongering that was happening online, that people can't come out because people are going to get canceled from their jobs. Listen, my family's been doxxed over this. People are messaging where my family works, trying to get them canceled. Oh, some type of, white rally, this, that. There was such a fear, and there is such a suppression of white people being able to speak out against the violence being perpetrated against us. That's why people didn't join. That's why people didn't come. But regardless, the way that things work in America nowadays, I'm very unfortunate that after January 6th, the government has, basically made everyone think there's going to be feds in the crowd, that there's going to be some type of fed plot for violence, and those type of fear mongering, people online where this is a result, people not exercising the rights that our founding fathers died for. Blood is soaked in the land of America for hundreds of years. So you could exercise your rights to stand up against injustice. And you didn't. I'm talking to some of the white guys in the crowd and other, members that are sick and tired of, black violence being perpetrated against them. I'm sure there's Asians in the crowd and whatnot. Our founding fathers died so you could exercise your rights, and you let some cuckolds on the internet, some anons and keyboard warriors withhold you from your sacred right and your duty to stand up against injustice.
Jake,
that is what's called being weak and fearful. Fear does not live in the heart of a patriot.
Okay.
So he is calm here, but the part that he is also getting to, notice that he is being everything's about race with him. Like, he had to bring out Asians. He had to talk about everything. Why can't we just say Americans? We're all Americans here. Right? We just want to be Americans. Why do we have to bring up race in all of this bullshit? We are Americans. That's all it is. Why in the hell does it matter if it's Asians or any of that stuff? It doesn't matter. These are Americans, and they have their rights, and they need to be able to keep them and express them freely in this country, because that is the God-given rights they're given. But this guy has to be bringing race into it. But no, he's not a race baiter at all. Not at all. Nailed it, Ed. And it's to keep us divided. That's what I'm thinking this entire situation is about. Unfortunately, Austin Metcalf's father and family cannot grieve properly for this incident that happened. Now, we don't know the full story on this yet. We don't know if it was self-defense. I see holes in it. But as soon as we have the evidence, then you can pass judgment on the situation like that. I don't think it should have been escalated the way it was. I think Karmelo Anthony should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, as everybody should if you are doing something like that. But he is claiming self-defense, and as a citizen, you have the right to due process and a fair and speedy trial. So I will respect that and wait until we have the evidence to say opposite of what you're saying, because I do anticipate that his story is not going to work out. But I am sick and tired of everybody bringing race into these things to cause more division in this country. There's a reason why I don't touch on these topics very often, because I hate this topic. I hate how everybody is using it to separate Americans and how it's keeping us oppressed, another abused word in this society, because the government is using it to control us. But if we can let this damn thing go and come together as Americans, we can finally push back against the government and get our union back on track. But no, we can't, because we have idiots like this individual that keeps fueling the fire of the division in this country. It has to stop. Anyways, let's keep going. Let me jump forward to 1336. So bear with me a second. I want to show you where we start talking about how Jake Lang is addressing Austin Metcalf's father.
And the culture that caused it. That's right. That's what men do. Stand.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
But you're
Stand for
put
something.
it on
Stand for
Ethan.
something.
Ethan's going to go ahead and ask this question, and then we'll.
Speaking about white guilt and fear,
See?
my brother right here wasn't willing
hold
to
on.
stand with me. Huh?
Hold on 1 second.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Huh? Hello? You hear that? Like, look at how entitled this piece of garbage is. He's mad because Ethan, the guy in the top left-hand corner, it did not show up to Jake Lang's protest. I'm proud of you for not showing up to his protest because he deserves no one to be showing up to his protest. It's absolutely insane. And you see how he's starting to behave on this? Like, this is where it starts to get off the rockers a little bit.
Go ahead, Ethan.
Ethan, why didn't you come?
What's that? Oh, so the next
Yes,
question
hello.
is that
We were leaving
we
together.
were listening.
Hold on, Jake. Listen.
Yeah, we were listening to that phone call. I think a lot of people, whether you interpreted it that way, whether you meant to say it the way you did, or would have changed anything different, looking back, I think a lot of people construed that as you calling his father weak. In, what context did you mean by that?
60
Well,
seconds.
the natural reaction, right? The primal reaction of a father who has lost his son is strength. That is like, I saw a meme and I'd like to pull it up. I don't know if I can get it right now, but it was like, choose your way, Western man. And it was one guy, God forbid, I'm not talking about, vigilantism or saying that I like vigilantism, but I'm saying that it's a better option than cuckolding, right? And sitting and being fearful and creating more Austin Metcalfs. You strike fear in the heart of your enemy, and then they're going to stop doing what they're doing. There was one man, his daughter was raped. The perp was being walked through the airport. He was on the pretending to be on the phone in the airport, turned around, shot the guy, killed the guy, was acquitted for a crime of passion because he was acting out of obviously a deep primal sense of, fatherhood, to defend his children, to avenge his children, to set a standard that this will not be accepted. And Austin Metcalf's father made the exact opposite, fearful, weak, cuckold, spineless jellyfish approach. And he is now, by taking this approach, continuing to say white people will stand back and stand by, no pun intended, stand back and stand by as our children are raped, robbed, humiliated, bullied, and murdered. And that is why, because Austin Metcalf is not Austin Metcalf anymore. Austin Metcalf is a symbol of black violence on whites.
All right.
See, he is completely disrespecting Austin Metcalf's dad. This is where I got frustrated with this entire situation, is when Jake Lang started behaving like this and disrespecting Austin Metcalf's dad. Now, there's stuff coming out today that Austin Metcalf's dad may be doing some weird things in his statements, and he's not super clear, but I don't give a rat's ass. You do not talk to a father that just lost his 17-year-old child like that. You have some respect, and you let the father grieve and go through the process however he needs to be. And I ask why he's shirtless, because he is showing his whiteness. That is why. That is exactly his reasoning. He's proud to be white, I guess. It's absolutely stupid. But back to this entire situation with how he's treating Austin Metcalf's dad. He should be treating him with respect. Austin Metcalf's dad, also, Jeff, has asked him to remove his picture from Jake Lang's website and not to be any associated with anything in the Metcalf family. He is out here still trying to grandstand and be working on behalf of Austin Metcalf, all because, in my opinion, for his political campaign in Florida. That is the whole reason why Jake Lang is doing this. He is not doing anything for anyone else other than his damn self, which is exactly what our politicians, while we started this damn show, because our politicians don't represent us. And Florida, if you guys elect this individual, you deserve this individual. Like, Florida needs to do right and not even give him a chance. And he needs to end up with he doesn't even get 1% of the vote. He can't. This is where I am talking about this topic more because I was waiting for the facts to come out. But now that this idiot is doing this, I have to talk about it because I don't like this guy. I don't like that he's running for Congress. I don't like that he has a decent following on the internet. And some people are liking this, which I don't understand how you can even support this guy doing this. And Philip Anderson. Philip Anderson, you were calling his dad the P word on X, and I do not agree with you on that. I used to support you, share your content, and interact with you. That was the final straw that I will not support. So Philip Anderson, he's another one that runs right next to Jake Lang. Absolutely not. These guys are insane. Let's jump to the next comment real quick. Where he starts going nuts. And then we're going to get off of this topic here in just a minute. 17. Yeah, this is close enough. Go ahead and share this on the screen.
Saying, I don't want to see the next beautiful young white child or black child for that matter, any child. But right now I'm standing here as a white man and saying, I don't want to see the next Austin Metcalf come about because our fathers in this country and the white men in this country are sitting back and sitting by as a perpetration of violence is happening in such a egregious degree that we need to address it. Austin Metcalf was the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, he is now transcended from his individual, the optics of the individual story, even what his dad is saying. It's not about that. He is the straw that broke the camel's back. And even before I decided to do the protest, even before I decided to go out there and spend my money, my time, my energy, use my political clout or whatever you want to call it, the currency that we have being Jan Sixers and going through what we go through to make a stand. Austin Metcalf's father is kicking dirt on his own son's grave, getting disrespected in front of the world and acting like a weak invertebrate. And it sets a standard that black people can kill and maim us. And we're just going to sit there and say, but please let us into your press conference. But please help us out. It's weak and it's disgusting. It needs to be condemned by both sides. Both Austin Metcalf's family and the killer's family both need to be condemning it. And neither one is condemning the murder and the culture that brought about the murder. Neither one. Cuckolds on both sides to black violence.
Okay, I got to share this last little bit that you have this weird response that he has to Patty at the bottom. And then we're going to jump to the last clip in this show. It's coming right up.
So let me take that. Let me grab that a second, please.
I mean, I got to say, he's gone at least a minute over his minute every single time we've done this.
Oh, we're gonna start getting a little strict on the minute.
It's getting a little ridiculous. And
well, if you had some more substance, then maybe you could go on for more than a minute. Instead of your
look, man, you're talking about substance. You're standing here as a grown-ass man with your shirt off on YouTube.
Yes, because I'm proud. Listen, this is about a statement. I have white skin, and I'm not afraid to be white and to be proud of being white. I love my country and my culture.
All right, I'm gonna mute both of you.
You don't. You're willing to is your Kwanzaa candles lit?
All right, hold on. I don't want to mute anybody.
Is your Kwanzaa candles lit? What the hell are you talking about? What are you trying to get out of that little jab, Jake? What are you getting to? This is the part where he is doing nothing but causing division in this country. Nothing but causing division. No one should be associating with this individual. Everybody should be blocking him so he doesn't end up getting any paycheck from X. And he can be just squandered out through our normal process of free market by just not giving him any attention. He is one asshole that should not be on here disrespecting Austin Metcalf's dad. But let's get into his last rant, and then we're going to jump to the Trump stuff. It is at 30 minutes, 13 seconds. They also called him out for where he was at in the stadium because he did a video and supposedly jumped into a place to where he wasn't supposed to be. Turns out people are saying, wait a minute, you were on the wrong side of the stadium. You were not on the right side. And he was pointing at a spot on the ground claiming it was Austin Metcalf's blood. Kind of insane, but I don't have any evidence to say one way or another, so I'm not really covering it. But here's the last rant about Jeff.
I have to address this right now. Grief. Let's talk about this. Is my rebuttal. Ready? Grief. Was Austin Metcalf's father grieving? Let's go to GoFundMe.com/Austin Metcalf. If you want to pull it up on the screen, let's do this right now. Just Google it. GoFundMe Austin Metcalf. April 2nd, Austin Metcalf had a knife plunged into his chest by some world star hip hop idolizing Little Gunna, Little Ty Savage, filthy, ridiculously minded, degenerate black young man that killed him. April 2nd, Austin Metcalf's father, Jeffrey Metcalf, logs on to GoFundMe and starts a GoFundMe that moment. 7 times that day on April 2nd, he changed the goal, the fundraising goal, from 6,000 to 9,000 to 17,000. He is not a grieving father, okay? He is a disgusting, weak, I don't curse because I am a Christian, but that man is as close.
I don't curse because I am a Christian, but you'll say all of those other things. Really? Like, dude, this is where you're putting on a show at this point. You can't even keep your composure in talking about the situation, trying to be professional, to be able to represent the Metcalf family. And Andy, some of the stuff that, yes, what he is saying, but a GoFundMe, the goals automatically increase. A GoFundMe for Austin Metcalf should go up like that if people want to donate. And I could see this being a situation that people would want to donate. Unfortunately, on the right, we don't unite as well as the people on the left to do that. But his words and the way he does this is absolutely insane and non-productive. Not productive at all. Let's finish hearing him out.
Close to the bottom of a slug as you could possibly be. His son's blood is still pumping out of the aorta, and he is on Give, Send, Go, pushing 6 to 9 to go on there and look. What a disgusting, feckless, spineless human being. I can't get it any closer to that. He is not a grieving father. He's an animal.
Hold on 1 second.
Regardless, he is behaving like a fucking shithead. You don't do this. You don't do this. If you want to have a successful presidential campaign, have some respect and be a little bit more professional. You don't have to be super professional because I understand things have changed a little bit, especially down to our generations. But have some respect for a grieving father. Now, if his father did create a GoFundMe really quickly within a day, so be it. So did Karmelo Anthony's family. That's just what people do. And a lot of people ask for help. For example, when Cash turned himself in for J6, immediately, and some of you in the comments immediately were DMing me, DMing Russo, DMing everybody in our crew and saying, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help? Those things always come out because Americans are coming around to help each other. And one of the things that comes to everybody's mind today is financially, because it's a little bit easier just to throw a little bit of money than necessarily doing some physical effort, because not all of us have time, or they could be on the other side of the country, and some money is easier to do. So putting together a GoFundMe or a Give, Send, Go is really simple. And it's convenient. To be blaming this on the father for that is really ridiculous. And it shows you his true colors. He should be having some respect for for Austin Metcalf's dad, for what he's going through. And Jake Lang is not helping this grieving process that he needs to go through and bury his son. Jake Lang is thinking that he is helping and he's doing everything that's for Austin, but his dad is not. No. His dad is trying to keep things civil because he doesn't agree with the way Jake Lang is doing things. And I agree with that. Everything Jake Lang is pushing here is creating division. It is not trying to get justice for Austin. It is not trying to change or reform some laws or do things differently in this country. The only thing he is achieving is dividing this nation, to where we are more separated and we cannot come together to fix this country. That is what this guy is doing. Now, Ed said it earlier in the comments that he is a Fed. Yeah, there's a lot of that out there. I don't necessarily disagree, because some of the stuff that he has been doing, I don't see a normal individual doing this on their own. I see that they're having some influence, someone influencing them to go this direction. It could be Philip Anderson and him together, that they're just doing this. Could be something else. Because honestly, a real human that really cares about people wouldn't be behaving like this. This is absolutely asinine. Asinine. Anyways, so we'll be done with this topic. I'll throw the comments in the comments after the video. I'll throw a link to the podcast. So shout out to Enrique and Ethan and that crew for putting this on. Thank you guys. It really showed Jake Lang's true colors, and it's exactly what I expected from it. And this is, hopefully everybody blocks Jake, because he doesn't deserve to get any clicks out of this. And that's honestly what I think it's for, is his political campaign and him getting some attention. All right, next topic, last topic, and then we'll cut it. We're about an hour right now, so last topic we're going to go over is Trump stuff. So with some of Trump's actions, it's been kind of weird without Congress. We haven't been able to see a whole lot of progress of anything going on, and Congress hasn't really done a whole lot anyways. But the last week, it's been really slow. But one of the things I noticed, I'm pulling up the link right now, guys. Trump is withdrawing troops. I did not. Where did that go? From Syria. Here we go. I did not know that this was actually happening, and not very many people are talking about it. Oh, come on, Chrome. You can play nice with me. There we go. There we go. Moving things around, guys. Sorry. But right here, we have from AP, multiple news sources are sharing this. U.S. is to withdraw 600 troops from Syria, leaving fewer than 1,000 to help counter IS militants. As you can see here, really recent, April 17th. From people with eyes like free, we'll zoom in here. Really far. There you go. April 17th is when it was updated. Let's just reset that to get back to normal. It's nice to know that we're actually withdrawing more troops, and we actually should. We voted, most of us voted, because we don't want to see any more wars. Seeing Trump withdrawing more and more troops from these countries, we should be pulling out of every country that we have troops in. There's no reason for any of our military to be in harm's way. They can come back home and we can find jobs for them. And then if Congress ever declares war, that's when we'll need them. We don't need to be leaving troops all around the country and putting them in harm's way. So it's nice and refreshing to see that we are starting this action, even though there was some escalations that we know about, that they were going after the Houthis that some of us didn't like. Me personally, I did not like them at all, because I don't want any more wars. We need to stop it. We need to cut it all down. The other thing that Trump is talking about, and there's putting a lot of pressure on, he keeps talking about it, so I think he's going to start pulling some actions soon, and that is about rates. He mentioned interest rates the other day. Let me see if I can pull up the video. He mentioned interest rates the other day, that we need interest rates to go down. And he's expecting, and there's rumors going into mainstream media that Jerome Powell should be cutting rates, but he is specifically trying to keep them up to kind of cause some problems, which I wouldn't be surprised. Jerome Powell is a piece of garbage. If we do decrease interest rates, I think that's going to get people spending some more money, which is the basis of a lot of our economy. That's a good thing. But it is a pretty big staple in the GDP numbers. And that's probably what Trump is looking at. He knows that the first quarter is already gone. The first quarter is also very low in GDP every year. It's always the lowest out of all 4 quarters of the year. And so if he can get it to where we're spending again in Q2, we can potentially avoid 2 quarters back to back that are in a negative GDP, which keeps us out of the old term prior to Joe Biden taking over, the old definition of a recession. A recession is defined as 2 quarters in negative GDP. And so that is where I think Trump is putting pressure on it. Now, I do believe some of the news in the media that Trump is getting impatient and he might be calling to get rid of Jerome Powell, but I don't see any of those actions just yet. So we're going to need to wait and see. But I do expect to see interest rates to be going down soon because Trump's game plan is if he can get people spending the money on those big ticket items, cars, houses, and all of those things, then he will be able to get our GDP up and avoid the media talking about a recession in Q3. That is my whole thoughts on the interest rate. I anticipate that it's going to happen and go that direction. But we'll have to see if the government plays it out that way. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about with Trump today. Where did that go? Where did it go? Bear with me a second, guys. I'm just trying to see if I can spark my memory because I said I wouldn't forget it and it's fresh on my mind. So we're going to be okay. And guess what? I forgot it. So that's what I get for trying to do that and not actually take notes. And you know what? I missed it. I forgot it already. But overall, Trump is making some changes, calling for some more changes. I do like that he's withdrawing troops. I do like the talks of cutting interest rates. I do think a healthy interest rate for the United States is not at 0. I do think a healthy interest rate from the Fed is probably around 4%. And then let the bankers and all of that adjust their interest rates that they're claiming when we can keep about a 4 to 6% interest rate. And that way there is some money coming into the Federal Reserve, as much as I want that to go away. But we can't be running the country at 0%. But I do also understand at times why we do that, to encourage the country to be spending money and to keep us from going into a negative GDP. Because if Americans are spending money, we can avoid going into a recession, which is why Joe Biden and his administration was lying to us for the last 4 years. Because as soon as you put recession into the media and it starts being pumped out there, people start going into fear. They start saving money. They're not spending as much. And then you kind of force yourself into a recession. Those are the things that kind of happen. Unless you have a major market shift like we had in 2008, there's nothing you can do to avoid that. It's just going to hit. Let's see. Freedom Coach. They have cut interest rate, but they have to refinance a big chunk of the national debt. We're going to have to find out. They haven't cut the interest rate significantly enough yet. Trump wants more. And I understand it because they only cut 0.25 was the last time they talked about cutting interest rates. And that didn't even do a whole lot because all of the mortgage rates still went way above what they were prior to that cut. And so the mortgage industry plays those weird games, and we really need it to be a pretty dramatic cut to have an impact, like 1% almost. I don't anticipate it to be 1%, to be honest, with Jerome Powell at least. If Trump gets somebody else in there that more aligns with him, I bet you'll see a big cut. But I bet we're going to probably only see maybe 0.5 to 0.75% of an interest rate with Jerome Powell in there. But we'll kind of see how this all goes, guys. And this is the show for tonight. I appreciate you guys all tuning in with me. I hope you guys all like the format of the show, the new layout. I'm sorry if I was glitching most of the time. That's really annoying. I just looked up at my TV and I see it happening. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with that. This hasn't happened before, so this is something new. I did get changes to my internet service provider this weekend, and I wonder if that's part of it. So I'm going to have to look into that. Thanks for tuning in with me. We will be doing this every Tuesday, and you guys all have a great